Okay, in this video we're going to take a look at Microbit and programming a Microbit in the browser using the simulator. Alright, this document that's linked from our announcements, the bottom of the announcements there. So we are making the video at the moment. We'll put a link there in a minute. We're going to go through some example programs and see the different parts of the Microbit programming environment in the browser. So one thing to note is that I'm assuming that you have already played around with Scratch. Scratch is another programming environment that's similar but only runs in the browser. So if you haven't played around with Scratch, go do that first. All right, now we're going to get into Microbit, and we'll go here first. Okay, so this is an area so you can create a new project or you can look at existing projects. We'll go ahead and start with one of mine, so the Count Up project. And this is the programming environment and a simulator. This is a picture of what the Microbit looks like. It's a physical device that has two switches, 25 LEDs, connections here where you can hook in other sensors and things. And it has a few other things, but I'm just going to run this program. The program's already running. Okay, so that program counted to 10, and it did it when I pressed the button. So over here we have our code, which is these blocks. If we just read it here, this was an on-button press block, so anytime I press the button, this is the code that's going to run. If I press button B, what do you think is going to happen? Nothing, because there's nothing over here connected to a button B press. Then we have a count variable. So this is a variable called count. It's set equal to 1. We're going to repeat 10 times. We show the number. We play a tone. And we change the count by 1. So that's adding 1 to the count. And that is what we saw happen. So it starts at 1. It goes up. Every time it goes up, we have this tone. And you notice when it gets to 10, there's not enough room on this LED display to show a 2-digit number, so it scrolls. And if we set it to go up to 20 and run it again, we'll see and there's a little bit of a delay when it's going to show a new number. So if you're paying attention to it, you can kind of see the separation between the number 11 scrolling past and the number 12, but that's just what we have to deal with here. Okay, so these are our programming elements that we can drag over. We'll just look through those. So there's that show a number, show LEDs. If you put that in, then you can pick your own pattern of LEDs to display, whatever you want. So you saw that. I'm going to take that out. Okay, there's a predefined set of icons that you can use. So these are all ones that you can select and use those if you want to. Showing text, and that's going to scroll past. A forever block is something that's going to be repeated. So if you want something to happen, a common common pattern is that you repeat something and pause some amount of time. And we'll see that in some of our later programs that will have something that repeats. We're maybe checking an input or something like that. And we have an on start. So this would be initialization stuff that happens just when the program starts, just when the microbit is plugged in, turned on. Okay, some other things that we can do. Here we have the input. These are code related to the sensors. So we have a button or a switch. There's two switches here. This is the A switch. There's a B switch. So you can select either one of those in your code. If you press them both at the same time, that's a separate kind of event. Then there's also a shake. So if you have the device, you can shake it and have something happen. I'll just put something here. So if you have a shake on in your program, then there's something you can press here. So by me clicking that little shake icon, that is telling the code that pretend that the device was just shaken. Okay, there are some other sensors. There's a light sensor, and you can see there it says it goes from 0 to 255. And if you have an actual device, you can see what kind of numbers, outside in the sun versus inside in regular room lighting, what kind of numbers you would get for that. There's an accelerometer that has 3 different directions. So that's depending on how you hold the microbit. That would be how much is it accelerating up and down, front to back, and side to side. And you always have one direction that if the microbit is sitting on the earth, there will be some acceleration down toward the earth, and that's gravity. There's a compass sensor as well, and a temperature sensor. Okay, so these are built in, and we'll see a few of these in some of our example programs. So these are circles. Circles can be used within some of the other blocks. So I could, instead of showing the count there, I could show the temperature, which is not what this program is really supposed to do, but there it is. And 21, so that's kind of room temperature in Celsius. And since I'm using the temperature sensor in my program, the simulator over here shows something that I can adjust what the temperature is in the simulation and see what happens there. Okay, so those are inputs. More options for inputs. You can play tones. So the options for playing tones, you get to say how long it is and what note it is, and some other options you can see. LEDs, so you can turn on specific LEDs, and they're indexed by X position this way, 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, and Y position is 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. So we missed that sensor going on because this other stuff happened. Why don't we put it here? So there was that, it flashed there. Okay, so there are some other options with the how do you control the LEDs, turning them on and off individually. You can set the brightness up or down. Loops, so if you want to do something that requires loops, here they are. and if tests. So if you're going to do something only in certain situations, that's there. You have the usual set of comparisons that you can use, and you can combine them with Boolean operations and or not. We can create variables. You can set a variable, increase or decrease. And then with this block here, you could set a variable to some expression, which we'll see in some of our examples. Some math operations, these are all built in. Plus, minus, times, divide. You also have remainder, which is called mod in programming. And you have a few other things. One that we'll be looking at in some of the other programs is picking a random number. Under advanced here, we'll see some of those in some of our other programs. So I'll just leave those as that it is for now. Other things in the environment here. So if I'm clicked on blocks, this is the kind of programming I'm doing here, which is similar to Scratch. If I click on JavaScript, that switches to JavaScript code. Now the class that these videos are for is a Python class, so we're not particularly going to do anything with this. But that is the JavaScript code that's behind this set of blocks. You can download the code, and if you have a microbit and plug it into your computer, you can drag this over to your microbit will show up in your as like a flash drive. Drag it over, and that runs that'll run the program. So that's one way to get it onto your microbit. You can also get it onto your microbit by pairing a device. Which is somewhere else. Pairing the device. Follow the instructions with what you got. If you want to save this project that you're working on, if you have a name for it here, it'll be saved when you go to Microbit in the same browser on the same computer. So there's no login information here to preserve it. I don't really want the temperature there in mine. Put that variable back in. The other way to save the file is if you click on Share and you publish, then it gives you a link, and this will work across, right? If you save this link somewhere, save a document that has your links to your microbit projects. Okay, so that's all for the environment. I don't. Okay, so let's look through. There's some more examples. I'll just go through these relatively quickly. When I put it up, you can pause. Okay. This one here, if I run it, it's on a shake. And when I shake it, it shows me a square and then a random number between 1 and 6. So that's rolling one die. There I rolled one die. Okay, so that's what that program looks like. Let's look at this one. First, we're going to see what this runs like. And actually, I don't have to do anything here. So this is an animation. And the way this is structured is I have a list of images. There's something in the advanced called images. So this is a 5x5 image. A big image would be sort of 2 displays wide, and it would scroll. So you can create an image, and you see this is kind of like rounded, which could be into anything that's rounded. You can use it. So in particular, in my program, I have a list. So first I have a list that's an empty array that comes from the arrays. So array is another name for a list, similar objects. So this here creates a new list, and I set it to the empty array. So I set it to the empty array, and then one of the options in the arrays is to add. So I add to this list this image, and I could put different images in here. So I have 3 images here that I picked, and so that's that one, and then I could maybe change it. That's this one. Okay, so I have a list that's set up at the start of my program, and then I have 2 things that kind of happen forever. I'm going to show one of my images. So my list of images is called list. So my list, and I have an I variable that loops through which item in my list I want to look at, which item in the array. So that's the, and I don't remember what this offset does. Okay, so then that's, I just show that image, and then over here it's changing my I. I starts at 0. 0 is the first thing in the list, starts indexing at 0. Here I increase I by 1 and set it to the remainder after dividing by 3 to make sure that the I never goes bigger than 2. So it'll go 0, then 1, then 2, and then back to 0. So it just loops through, and each time pausing for 1 second. Okay, so this is one kind of fun thing that's easy to do on the Microbit. Just as a note, if we look at the JavaScript for this, it's shorter. Right, so most of the code here is taken up by specifying these images. But if you look at the actual code, that doesn't look too bad. That's 6 lines of code. It actually looks much scarier like this. Okay, we'll look at one more together, and I had another one prepared for you that you can look up on your own if you want to. So one of the cool things about the Microbit is you have sensors. And this is a program that just gets values from the different sensors. So on button A, I'm getting the temperature in Celsius. Button B is the compass heading. And since I'm using the compass heading, it lets me know where is the compass head. I don't see that on the screen right now. Oh, that is, so button B is the light level. Right, so button B there shows me the light level, and this is more interesting if you actually have a device shaking. So it must be that the shake, right. Yes, so there's the shake, and this would be the compass heading. And all right, so you could experiment with that if you have an actual device. Let's say that this is like this. So that shows the degrees. I have another one here, so if we press pin 0, there we go. So you can see how it's printing out. I have 3 different numbers that it's printing, so the acceleration in the X, the Y, and the Z directions, and those are joined together with this join, which is in the text area. So I've joined together this acceleration, a comma, this acceleration, a comma, and you can see how that gets displayed. You can read it. There's the comma. It's not super easy to read, especially the longer the text. Okay, but if we were doing some experiment, then we can use our microbit as a thermometer, a light level meter, and compass. There's lots more you can do. So the last, there's one more example there that you can look at. So for the homework assignment, you're going to have to, these are some descriptions of a few things that I think you'll be able to do after you look through these examples a bit more and play around. Then if we go back to the home page here, there are tutorials you can try out. There are more examples of different types. Lots of stuff. And there's a few courses, so a collection of similar types of programs that you can try out. So whatever is particularly interesting